to change the subject. And I said, okay, well, what about the job before that? Why did you leave that job? And he said, I had the worst supervisor in the world. And I thought, did you follow him from one job to the next job? But he didn't, because the next word cued me in. He said she. She was always telling me what to do. She wouldn't listen to my ideas. She was this, that, and the other thing. And I thought, oh no, I think I see where the problem is. But I've had bad supervisors before. And so I asked him, I thought I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I asked him, well, what about the job before that? Why'd you leave that job? You want to guess what he said? I had the worst supervisor in the world. He was always telling me what to do. And I wanted to throw my clipboard and pen up in the air. I was like, don't you see? Don't you get it? Don't you see where the problem is? But he wasn't ready to see. And he wasn't ready to learn from anybody else. In fact, I asked him, how long were you at that job? And he said, a week. I couldn't stand more than a week with that supervisor. And I thought, your first week on the job, isn't your supervisor supposed to tell you what to do? And should you really be coming up with ideas to tell your supervisor how to do the job better if you're brand new on the job? But he wasn't ready to learn. I hope that you guys always stay ready to learn. In fact, when you go into an interview, one thing you don't want to do is criticize anything or anybody. Don't blame your last supervisor. Don't blame your sister for bringing the car back without any gas that made you late. Don't blame anyone. In fact, the word blame is spelled B-lame. Right? So don't be lame. Don't blame people. There's an expression in the employment industry, throwing mud. If you're throwing mud, it means you're saying bad things about people. Okay? The problem with throwing mud is what happens after you throw the mud? You end up looking muddy. And if the other person's not in the interview, they don't even get seen by the interviewer. So you look like a mess, and the other person's not there, so they don't really matter. So in an interview, tip number one, don't blame anybody. Don't say bad things about anybody. It's lame, okay? I've got to tell you a story. These guys were hired by a zoo to go down to Brazil to catch some monkeys for a zoo. And they were really fast monkeys, and they realized when they got down there, this was a long time ago before they had rocket-propelled nets or dart guns or anything like that. And they got down there and with their tents and stuff, and they saw that these monkeys were so fast that they had no hope of catching these guys. And they thought, oh no, what are we going to do? Well, we need some water. We need to set up camp. So they set up the tent. They took their jugs down to the river, got some water, and when they came back, the monkeys had gotten in their tent and gotten into their stuff and ran off, scattering anything that was shiny in their path. And they thought, huh, the monkeys are really fascinated by shiny stuff. Maybe we can use this to our advantage. And so they found these coconuts, and they cut the top off the coconut, cut a hole just big enough where the monkey could close up its paw and reach in there. And then they cut a piece of tin, just a tiny bit smaller than the hole. And they dropped that shiny tin in the coconut. The whole time the monkeys are watching this. They see the shiny thing go in the coconut. And then they anchored the coconut to a log or to the ground or something, and then they went off behind the bushes. Well, as soon as they're gone, the monkeys start coming down from the trees, and they start walking over there, and the most audacious one jumps up on the trunk and looks in there and sees his reflection in that shiny thing and reaches in there and gets a hold of it. But now he can't get his hand out because his paw is bigger than the hole. And so he starts yanking on it, and the guys come running from behind the trees with their gunny sacks, and the monkey sees him. He starts howling and jumping around and hopping, but he won't let go of the shiny thing. So the guys come right up to him, put the sack over, thump him on the head, shake his paw loose, tie it up with a string, and they could catch monkeys all day just by having a shiny thing to put inside that coconut. Now at this point, you should be asking, Peter, why are you talking about monkeys at the job seminar, right? Well, when I tell the story at the jail or at the homeless shelter, the guys just start saying, oh yeah, I know what my shiny thing is. It's my anger problem, or it's my addictions, or it's pornography. That led to one thing into another thing, and that's why I ended up here. And they know they got a list of their shiny things that they wouldn't let go of that ended up ruining their life up to that point and getting them in jail. And so whenever I do this presentation at job fairs, I tell them, please don't go into the gym and meet the employers and tell them what your problems are. That's not putting your best foot forward. Go home and in a quiet moment, write down on a piece of paper what the shiny thing is for you. I have several of them. But write down, what do I need to let go of in order to have a better life? Usually we're hanging on to them. They're our favorite little shiny thing, and it's been causing us a problem, and we know we need to let go of it. We know it's been causing us problems, but we have a hard time letting go of it. Okay? Sometimes what we need to let go of is justified. Maybe we're mad at somebody that hurt us very badly. They had no right. But who's it hurting now? Are they hurting because you're still mad at them? They may not even know you're mad. They may not even remember you exist. But it's hurting us if we're still mad at them. I interviewed a lady once and she was furious. I have no idea what she was mad about. She came into my office, filled out the applications, came into my office and started doing the interview, and she was breathing hard. She was just tense, and I could feel the anger coming out of her skin. I have no idea why she was angry. But would you like to work with somebody that is that angry? I'm not comfortable being in the same room with somebody that is furious about to explode like a bombshell. And so I was very kind to her and very polite to her and said, if we ever have a job for you, we'll give you a call. But would we ever have a job for her? Probably not, unless some big warehouse called us up and said, we just need... No, we would find somebody who wasn't so angry, because I would be afraid if I sent her that she would get mad at her co-workers or supervisors or close customers, and then the business would call me up and say, Peter, why are you sending us people with problems? We need you to send us people who will just get stuff done. Sometimes what we're holding on to is something that we need to change about ourselves. Sometimes it's something we need to let go of about other people. I think you get the idea. Okay, third thing I want to talk about. This is a story about a guy a long time ago who walked into a new town. This was in the days of walking in horses, right? And he walks into this new town, and nailed on the tree, he sees this proclamation, and it's faded. He walks up to the proclamation, and it says, whoever can jump to the top of the castle can marry the princess. And he thought, this is really strange. So he asked the guy, he said, what's the deal with this proclamation? And the guy said, oh yeah, that. Well, that is because the king is a very protective dad, and he didn't want to let his daughter date anybody, and so he wouldn't let her date, and the queen and the daughter wanted her to eventually get married and have grandchildren and so forth. And so they finally talked him into a deal. And the only deal the king would make was, if a man's going to be good enough for my daughter, he has to be able to jump to the top of the castle. And they're like, Daddy, this is impossible. But it was the only deal he offered, so, okay, the proclamations went out, they got put up on the trees, and every Saturday morning, the young men in the kingdom would come together with their pole vaults or their catapults or their trampolines, whatever they had, and try and figure out a way to launch themselves up to the top of the castle. Well, this worked out pretty well because there were no video games or DVDs or anything like that. People were very bored. They needed some entertainment, and they got to see people try and do this and break their bones, and it was very fun for everybody involved except the parents of the friends of the kids. And he said, but this hasn't, everybody got injured. We haven't had anybody try in a long time. And the guy thought, well, that makes sense. But a couple days later, he got an idea, and he announced, I got an idea. Saturday, 8 a.m. at the castle, I'm doing it. Well, everybody was overjoyed because now they'd be able to get to see somebody's blood be spilled who they didn't even care about. They didn't even know this guy. He's a stranger in town, right? So 8 o'clock the next Saturday morning, they all go to the castle. They've got their blankets and their picnics and stuff like that, and they're ready. And the king and his princess daughter up there on top of the castle, and they're watching. What's he going to do? But they thought, maybe this guy's a little bit daft because he doesn't have a pole to pole vault with, or a trampoline, or a catapult, or any friends to help launch him into the air. You know, maybe he's dumb. And so they all just watched. And at 8 o'clock, the king motioned that it was time to start. And the guy walked up to the castle, and there was a narrow staircase just inside the door that wound up to the top, and he just went up to that first step and he jumps. And he jumped. And everybody's like, this guy's really dense. But he just kept jumping. After a few jumps, some people started picking up on it. Oh, he's jumping to the top of the castle. That doesn't count. They start calling him all kinds of names and throwing their apple cores and stuff, and he just ignored them. He just kept jumping. He just kept jumping. And the princess thought, oh no, this doesn't look good. And the king's just standing there, rubbing his whiskers. And his daughter looked at him and she thought, what's Dad thinking? And the guy just keeps jumping. And the crowd, some of them are leaving, they're already gathering blankets up, others are still, whistling cat calls and, envying. And he's just ignoring them. He's just jumping. And the king hasn't moved, so all of a sudden the people stop walking away, and they start watching this guy too. And after a while, he's just sweating, and he's not jumping very high anymore. He's tripping over sometimes, but he just keeps jumping. And so everybody's just silently watching the king. And finally, he gets up to the top, and the king's thinking to himself, I like this guy. He doesn't quit. He ignores everybody who's making fun of him. Whoever marries my daughter is going to become king someday, and kings get mocked all the time, and you've got to be able to ignore people. And he's got good ideas. Nobody else has had this idea. And so he stepped up to the edge of the castle and said, I never said you had to do it in one jump. So why am I telling castle stories now? First monkeys and now castles, right? Well, because there are a lot of things that you guys are going to want in your life that are going to take a lot of jumps. I was doing this course once, and a lady said she really wanted to become an accountant. And I thought, why would you want to do math all day long the rest of your life? But she liked accounting. She liked numbers. And I thought, well, do you have an accounting degree? No. Are you in college? No. Have you applied? No. Have you figured out if there's financial aid? No. Well, really quickly, she realized, hey, these are the steps I need to plan. First, I need to call the financial aid office. I need to ask for information. I need to call the admissions office. I need to, there are lots of steps before she even started her first day of class. Henry Ford, the guy who started the cars manufacturing, I hope in school you've already learned that the cool thing that he came up with was the assembly line. Interchangeable parts. Before the assembly line and interchangeable parts, one person had to be able to make all the parts in the machine or whatever. But he figured out, no, if we just have one person make the bolts, they can get really good at making bolts. And have somebody else make the wheel, or the spoke. And everybody can get really good at their little part, and then have other people that start assembling it, and everybody can make them fast, get good at their piece, and then we can make the cars cheaper so everybody can own a car. He did it by breaking it down into small steps. So that's what you want to do. When you figure out what you want, break it down into small steps. I was interviewing a guy once for a job. He looked like he was about 21. And he had no work history on his application. And I looked at him and I thought, oh, he doesn't look like he's completely spoiled, like he's always been given everything. He looks like he's probably had a job before. And I said, really? You've never had a job? And he said, well, no, nothing worth putting down. And I thought, what isn't worth putting down? He said, well, I worked at McDonald's for a year and a half. And I said, McDonald's for a year and a half? I love McDonald's for a year and a half. If you worked at McDonald's for a year and a half, you've showed up every day for a year and a half, you haven't stolen or been caught for a year and a half, you've gotten along with a lot of coworkers and supervisors, some of whom were probably hard to get along with. You've probably learned how to use every piece of equipment in the restaurant. That means you're trainable and you're willing to learn. I love a year and a half at McDonald's. And he went, oh, because guys under 21, sometimes that's their whole sentence. Oh, no offense, guys. Some. Anyway, so that was a new experience for him, to find out that McDonald's was an important step. My daughter, when she was about 7 years old, I have 4 daughters, and one of them, the youngest, when she was about 7, she came to me and I was really busy. She said, Dad, I want to tell you something. And I wanted to say, I'm really busy, but if you're a good dad, you just stop what you're doing and you listen, right? So I said, what is it, Sarah? And she said, I've been thinking, if somebody wants something that's really important to them, they shouldn't quit. Because if they quit, they'll never get it. But if they don't quit, eventually, they'll get it. And I thought, wait a second, let me get a piece of paper and a pencil. I ran and got a piece of paper and pencil, and I asked her to read it to me until I had it down. Because I think that is so genius. If you really want something, don't quit. Because if you quit, are you ever going to get it? Not if you quit. But if you don't quit, and you keep taking little steps, eventually you'll get it. I went to a museum up near Omaha. It's a pioneer museum. And the pioneers walked from Omaha through Iowa and Nebraska and the mountains of Utah down into the Salt Lake Valley. Even little kids walked. And the poor pioneers didn't have enough money for like oxen or horses and wagons, so what they did is they made half a wagon. Picture a box with 2 big wheels, no animals. They just put 2 rails out there with a crossbar, and they would pull their stuff. And they walked from Omaha all the way to Salt Lake City. That's about the same distances from here to Salt Lake City. 18 hours in a car at 80 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour. I never go to speed limit. Right? Step by step, eventually, you get there, right? Okay. I was at a graduation, and there was this giant Samoan guy. I think he was Samoan. I can't tell the difference between Samoans and Tongas. He was huge. He was the football team, not a member of the football team. He was the football team. And he was given the speech at the end of his graduation, and one thing he said really stuck with me. He said, when we're lifting weights, the coach comes through and he tells us, guys, if you want something, how would he say that again? I hope I wrote something down on my paper. You ever talk and get nervous and totally forget what you're saying? No, coach said, if you really want something, you gotta see it through. Or you gotta keep going. You gotta see it through. You gotta do things you don't want to do. And I wrote that down too. I thought, that is really good. If there's anything you want, you gotta keep going. You gotta see it through. You gotta do things you don't want to do. I was trying to decide whether I should go back to school after having had enough school, I thought. And I ran into an old guy named Grandpa Gunn. He was the father-in-law of my sister. And he had gone back to school when he was married and had 5 kids. And he told me when he went back to school, it was far away from where he lived, so he couldn't drive there every day. He had to drive there on Monday, stay there, sleep in his car until Friday, and then come home. And this was in Utah, where it snows a lot, and the snow doesn't melt for like 2 months. So he was driving early in the morning on Monday. Oh, he got a job in the men's locker room so that he could shower. So he would drive there early in the morning on Monday, park in the parking lot, go in, shower, and hand out towels while he did his homework. And then go to school all day, come out, and he would type up his papers on a little tiny typewriter in his car, on his knees. And then he would eat in his car and sleep in his car in a sleeping bag. It must have been a really good sleeping bag for that cold weather. And then the next morning he'd do the same thing. 2.5 years to get his PhD. Because he'd had enough of a job that he didn't like, and he thought, if I could be a college professor, I'll get paid well, I really enjoy teaching, and I'll have a good life for the rest of my life. My wife and I will be able to save money, have a good retirement, do what we want to do. So he went back to school, and he said it was really hard for 2.5 years. Right? 2.5 years, it was really hard. But he said, ever since then, our life has been really good. So he said, Peter, and here's the advice he gave me. It made me a little bit dizzy when he said it. You can have hard now and easy later, or you can have easy now and hard later. You choose. And all those easies, nows, and I was like, wait, say that again. He said, you can either have hard now and easy later, or you can have easy now and hard later. Which do you want? Oh, and by the way, he said, whatever you choose first is going to be short. Whatever comes later is going to last a long, long time. So do you want it easy now and hard later? Or do you want hard now and easy later? He had a really good life, enjoying being a professor, saving up good money so that he could retire. They were traveling and doing whatever they wanted. After I had the employment agency, I hired some people and I saw them make choices, some that were easy first and some that were hard first. One guy came in and he said, I'm desperate for a job, I gotta have a job. I liked the sound of that because I needed people that would show up every day to work. And he sounded very determined. And so I hired him to go to a garage door manufacturing place. In fact, they built those kinds of doors. And so he went to work at the garage door place. The third morning, I get a phone call. Peter, where is this guy? I said, he's not there. I looked at my watch. 45 minutes ago, you should have been at work. I said, I am so sorry. I'll call him right now. I hung up. I called him up. I happened to know he had a landline, didn't have a cell phone. He answers the phone. Not a good sign since he's supposed to already be at work. I was hoping he'd be gone and almost to work. He answered the phone, and I'm like, Jeff, or whatever his name was. I'm making that up. And he's like, well, you can see I'm not at work. I wasn't laughing because I am now losing money. And I look bad to the company that I'm providing employees for. I'm like, why aren't you? You know what he said? Oh, I was talking on the phone really late last night, and I was just too tired to get up today. I had already told him that this company had a very strict attendance policy, and if you miss a day or you're late in the first month, they're going to let you go. So he had it easy for about an hour and a half that he slept in. Actually, he didn't even get to sleep an hour and a half because I called him up 45 minutes into his schedule. He had it easy up until then, but as soon as he realized, I've just lost my job, I've just got myself fired, then it got very hard for him. He probably felt a little bit sick to his stomach. And how do you go to another interview and when they say, why did you leave your last job? How do you say, well, I talked too late on the phone and didn't want to get up in the morning and go to work? I mean, who's going to hire you then? Right? So he chose easy now. It lasted about an hour and a half. And then it's going to be hard for him for a long time afterwards. All right? Let me see if I can think of a good example. When I was a kid, I had a good relationship with my principal because I was always sent to his office in trouble. And I had been out on the playground, and they were doing some construction, and one of the construction workers' truck was out there. I didn't know that sun and heat makes glass fragile. I was in 6th grade, what do I know? And we were joking around, and as a joke, I picked up a rock and said, look guys, isn't this cool? And I flicked the rock at this truck's window. Well, like I say, heat apparently makes glass fragile. That little pebble hit that window, and it broke into like a million pieces. It didn't fall out, but 5 minutes later, it was still going pop, 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 pop. I mean, there was a piece of glass as big as the side of a die. It was just, and I was like, ugh. That was dumb, right? And I thought, oh no, how do I get out of this? But 4 guys saw me toss the rock. I knew I was going to get in trouble. So I thought, I guess I'll do the noble thing and tell the truth. I didn't really have much choice, but I thought, I guess I better tell the truth. So I walked over to the construction workers and I told them, whose truck is that over there? And I said, looked at me and he went, ha ha ha. He thought I was telling a joke. I said, no, really, I broke it, I'm sorry. And he came and looked at it, and it was really hard for about an hour, and it was hard telling my parents, but the next day we were playing tag football, and I had the football, and the guy didn't touch me until I got way further down, and then I got tagged, but they didn't believe me. And then somebody said, he's the one that told the truth about the window. You think he's going to lie about the football? And everybody went, oh yeah, and walked away. From then on, whatever I said, people believed me. So it was uncomfortable for a little while to get in trouble and tell the truth. But it made it easier for me from then on to tell the truth all the time. Because whenever I was thinking about lying, I'd go, well, this isn't as big a deal as the car window, the car window I broke. So, hard, you want to do the hard thing now, have it hard now and easy later for a long time? Or do you want easy now and hard later for a long time? Okay, let's move on. Anybody ever been fishing? A compliment for a really good fisherwoman, is he or she can think like a fish. They know where the fish are going to be, at what time. Are they going to be in the shade or the sun? Do they want worms or a lure or a fish egg? Do they want to see that worm or whatever bobbing up and down? Or do they want it sitting on the bottom and just come over and find it? He or she knows how to think like a fish. Well, the reason I'm talking about fishing when we're talking about jobs and having a good life is because if you're a good fisherman, you know how the fish think. If you want a job, you need to think, how does this supervisor think? Or this recruiter? If you want to please anybody or get anybody on your side, you need to ask yourself, what do they want? What's important to them? So people often ask me, give me some advice on resumes, or on applications, or on interviews. And I tell them, you got to think like the supervisor. Ask yourself, what's important to them? What do they want? What do they need? What keeps them up at night? What makes them miserable? Because your job is to make their life easier. If you can make their life easier, they're going to want to keep you, even if that means giving you a raise. Okay, even if that means giving you the days off that you want off. Oh yeah, we had a girl that was so good when I managed at Hardee's that whenever she got her schedule changed, she said, oh, I don't know if I can still work here. My schedule changed. These are my new classes. And we say, give us those classes. We'll change everybody's schedule next week according to what you can work. Because she was so awesome. She was always there. She was always polite. She always did extra things that we didn't ask her to do. She was just, we just loved that. Other people, you had to keep watching them and say, put more cups in the dispenser. Go wipe off the table. Stop polishing the counter with your rear end. Right? But she was always doing whatever we needed her to. She was great. So she thought like a fish. So what does an employer want? What are those things that you need to be thinking about when you fill out the application, resume, or interview? Oh, and please remember this little rhyming thing about applications. Got ready? Neat and complete. I ask employers, what's one thing that bugs you? And a lot of times I hear, when I get applications that are only half filled out. Really, what do they think? If they'll only do half of an application that takes 1 hour, are they going to do everything I ask them to, hour after hour, week after week, month after month? If they can't even do one piece of paper, we want them complete, and we want them neat. Now, I don't know if I could fill out something really neat, unless I can type it, but I could slow down and make it legible. You know, that's what they want. Anyway, what does an employer want? Let me talk about 5 things. First, they want somebody who will be there. Superman and Wonder Woman are pretend, so they're never there. Employers are not looking for Superman and Wonder Woman employees. They just want normal people who show up. Easy enough? Just be there. All right? I met a guy who only spoke Spanish. His name was Rene. He was older, so he wasn't the strongest guy. He wasn't very educated. He didn't get much education in Mexico. But he was there every single day. his employer nicknamed him Everyday Renee, because he was there every day. Well, he would stay and work for 10 months, and then he'd go back to Mexico and be with his family for 2 months, and then he would come back. And whenever he came back, he would go back to the same 1 or 2, 3 employers that he worked for before and say, "Do you need somebody?" And they would, whenever they saw him, if they needed somebody, they're like, "Oh yeah, see." Everyday Renee, we can count on this guy. He may not be the fastest or the strongest, and we may have to work out of the communicating a little bit, but we can count on him being there. Somebody who's a super fast worker and isn't there gets how much done? Nothing. You're not there. But every day Renee was awesome because he was there every day, and he was happy to do whatever they asked him to do. All right. I hired a girl right out of high school. Her name was Amanda, and she had worked at a pizza place for a year and a half. I was a little bit nervous about hiring her because she was young, and I thought that she would attract guys to come in and be hanging around the office. She was really cute, and I thought, I don't want to deal with her little boyfriends, you know. And but she said a couple things in the interview. She had worked during her junior and senior year in high school, and she had really good grades. And her parents were of zero support. And I thought, that's remarkable, to get really good grades with parents that don't support you, and you're working your junior and senior year. I thought, this girl knows how to work, I think. And so I hired her, and I never regretted that decision. She never had boyfriends come into the office or anything like that. She was always responsible. She'd always show up 5 minutes early and would stay 5 minutes late. She was in charge of the front office, answering the phone and talking to people as they came in the front door and giving them an application to fill out. She was always there on time, never any problems. All I had to do was ask her to wear candies because her style was a little bit lower cut than I was comfortable with, but she wore candies, that's fine. And I really appreciated her because she always got stuff done that I didn't even ask her to do. At the end of the day, I came up one day and she was picking up gum wrappers from under chairs and newspapers and throwing them out. I had never asked her to do that. She was just doing these extra things that she saw needed to be done. I loved Amanda. I mean, I didn't love her, you know what I mean? But later, she told me that she got 1 10-cent raise in a year and a half from the pizza place. She said, it was so frustrating. I was training the other people, giving them all these directions. When I asked for a raise, we'll give you 10 cents an hour. She was like, I just felt like I was worth more than that. Well, after she worked for me for about 6 months, I mean, I'm an employment agency. I'm sending people out to work at places where some of them were making $12 an hour, which was more than Amanda was making. And I thought, what if she quits and goes to work there? She's plenty good. I don't want to lose her. She makes my life easier. And so I called her into my office, and I told her, I'm giving you a raise starting yesterday, Monday. And she was like, she couldn't believe it. She didn't even ask. But I told her, I said, Amanda, you are that good, and I don't want you to find someplace else to go. She was delighted. She was another one of these, I hate to say weird, but I don't like math, and I'm not very good at math. And she came to me one day and she said, can I learn to do payroll? I think I want to do accounting someday. And I was like, you want to do payroll? I have 20 things to do and time to do 10 of them right. 12 if I do them all wrong. I would love to have somebody help me with payroll. So I started showing her how to do payroll. She was happy to learn how to do payroll. I was happy to let her do the payroll. It was great. If you can do that, look for extra things to do, then you can learn things that you want to learn. That'll be a step someplace else. After that, a few years later, she ended up getting a job with an attorney who paid her a lot more than I could afford to pay her. And then she got a job doing accounting and bookkeeping for a big paper manufacturer. She wanted to do accounting, and the step that she took for me now had her in a job where she was doing accounting. Now, she lives in Colorado, I think, and she's applying to accounting programs, or maybe she's already an accountant, I don't know. All right, but that was a step that Amanda took by doing a little bit extra. Okay, so be there. Be smart. Really quickly. I sent these 2 guys to build garage doors, and it's an assembly line, and when they got bored, they figured out, you know what would be really fun is if I throw bolts at my friend. Everybody knows what bolts are, steel things that screw things together. And so they started having bolt wars. And they at least figured out that it hurt when you got hit by a bolt, and so they would duck down behind these steel cabinets when they'd see each other throw a bolt. Well, one of the guys was really smart, and he thought, I can never hit him because he ducks down behind the cabinet. After I throw the first one, I'll throw another one when he's still down. And then when he comes up, it'll get him. He was smart. And so he did. He threw that first bolt and then really quickly threw the next bolt, and the guy ducked down and he popped up, and the second one bounced off the top of the counter and hit him in the tooth. Broke about 2/3 of his tooth off. Now, who do you imagine gets to pay for that tooth? Not the guy who threw it. The company has to pay for it because it was an injury on the job. About $880. And they had to stop the assembly line. And they had to pay the guy while he was going to the dentist or orthodontist or whoever fixes broken teeth. Well, that's what I mean by being smart. Since that one I'm picking on guys, I'll pick on girls with the next one. There was a girl at a call center. We sent her out to a big call center. She's making $12.95 an hour, and she must have been bored. I worked in a call center. I was bored. And so as a joke, she took the girl's purse from the desk next to her and hid it. The problem was they weren't really good friends, and when she finally gave the purse back 3 hours later, all of the girl's rent money in cash had disappeared. Well, she said her rent money was in the purse. I mean, how would anybody know? And it was gone. And that girl had the purse the whole time. And so the rent money's gone. She had the purse, so she got in trouble with the law. Okay, so just be smart. Just show up to work and do the work that's necessary. That's what I mean by be smart. I'm not talking about test grades or GPAs or IQs or anything. All right? But speaking of IQs, have you ever heard of the term emotional IQ? Emotional IQ is how smart are we when we get emotional? My wife knows how to push my buttons and get me frustrated. And so it's really good practice for me to stay calm if she's in that kind of mood, right? So how smart are you when things get really emotional? When somebody pushes your buttons and says or does just the thing to drive you crazy? And maybe you are entirely justified. I interviewed a guy one time, and one of the questions on the interview is it okay if we do a background check, criminal background check? He instantly got angry. It wasn't my fault. I thought, oh no, not somebody else who says it's not their fault. He says, the guy called me a name and I pushed him and he hit me, and then I picked up this rock and it was a lot bigger than I thought, and then there was blood all over the place and it freaked me out. He went on for 12 minutes about the blood and hitting this guy with the rock. And I'm thinking, I'm just going to be really nice and finish the interview and tell him if we ever have a job for you, we'll call. Now compare that with somebody else who I asked the same question. Is it okay if we do a criminal background check? And he did this. He went, yes, you're going to find a felony. When I was young and dumb, I did something. And he actually put his hands like this and he went, that's behind me. I've done roofing for 2 years. I've been a cook for 3 years. I like learning new things. I get along well with other people. I just want to work. Now, what's ringing in my ears after the first interview? There was blood all over the place. It wasn't my fault. Who picked up the rock? But after the second interview, what's ringing in my ears? You did roofing for 2 years? I roofed my own house a couple times. It's hard work. You're hot and tired. Your ankles hurt. Your arms hurt. Everything hurts. You did it for 2 years? And you were a cook for 3 years? I bet some customers weren't very polite. I bet sometimes they sent things back and it was a pain in the neck. Wow. I was impressed with him. We had a job for the second guy. We all did dumb things when we were young and dumb, right? But the other guy's like, we'll let you know. Don't call us, we'll call you, right? So, emotional IQ, that's part of getting along well with other people. And statistics tell us the number one reason adults get fired in the United States is because they can't get along with other people. Okay? Sometimes it's their supervisors, sometimes it's their customers. Heaven forbid it's the customers. Sometimes it's their coworkers. But you've got to decide, I'm going to get along with other people. And if other people are childish, I'm going to be the adult and just blow it off, walk away. Because I know the steps I want to take to get to where I want to go. And if I take a backward step by reacting to somebody who might hate me anyway and is trying to get me in trouble, then that's going to hurt me, and they're going to get a kick out of it. So, number 3, get along with other people. All right. Number 4, you've got to care about the business. Have you ever gotten a hamburger, taken a bite, and had mustard squirted out on your fingers, and then you've got mustard running down your hand, and it's like, ah! Maybe it doesn't even matter if the hamburger's any good anymore. The mess is annoying. Well, you can't train somebody enough to make them put the mustard in the middle of the hamburger bun. They've got to care enough to put the right amount in the middle of the hamburger, right? So if you want to impress employers, show them that you care about their business. I had a guy walk in my employment agency one time, and he banged his hand on the counter really hard. Got furious. He's like, "Why haven't you gotten me a job yet?" Truth was, we were about to call him about a job. But after he did that, we thought, no way. What if we send him out there and he blows up and gets mad at his supervisor? Then they'll be short an employee, and I'll be losing money every hour that he's not there. So get along with people, all right? People we're kind of mind readers. Have you ever had somebody smiling at you and saying the right things and acting right, but you got a very uneasy feeling that as soon as you left the room, they were going to stab you in the back and be saying rude things about you? Yeah, we can kind of read each other's minds. Maybe it's body language, maybe it's eyes. Did you know if somebody looks down when you talk to them, that's a common sign that they're lying? And in interviews, a lot of times I'd have people answer questions looking down, and I thought, I wonder if they're shy or if they're lying to me. But we can kind of read each other's minds, and that means that we have to just decide, I'm going to respect everybody, even people that don't deserve it, because they'll be able to feel if I respect them or not. And actually, they'll probably behave up or down to my expectations of them. Try that with little kids. If you expect the best of little kids, they'll perform up to it. If you tell them they're a rotten kid and they're dumb, they'll start believing they're dumb. I was helping a girl with math, a high school girl, and I could tell from talking to her she was intelligent, she was really sharp, but she wouldn't even try with the math. Imagine me helping somebody with math. That was amazing. And I told her, I said, look, you're smart, you can do this. And she said, no, I can't, I'm dumb. And I thought, is she joking? But she wasn't. And I realized she had been told so many times that she was dumb by people who weren't any smarter, that she had started to believe it. Eventually, she got over it and graduated from high school and became a supervisor at that big call center and worked there for many years. And I'm so proud of her for being able to let go of the names that she was called. Okay, one last thing about people. Let's see, we're good on time here. Do more than is expected. If you do more than is expected, one, you'll have fun because you're not being forced to do it, and you know you're surprising people and delighting them. So it'll be more fun for you. It'll impress the socks out of them that you're doing more, and they're going to remember that. Like me calling Amanda in to give her a raise. Somebody said once, people do more than they're paid for before they get paid for more than they do. Does that make sense? Yeah. You got to do more than you're paid for before you're going to get paid for more than you do. You heard about executives that go golfing in the middle of the workday? They're getting paid for more than they actually do. They're not making money golfing. But they put in their time and their hard work, and they made good decisions. And so now they're at the point where they're getting paid for more than they're doing. Besides, if you leave the call center, I worked in a Sprint call center for quite a while, and I know that if I was mad at management and didn't like my job and decided that I was going to do less than I was paid for just to get even with management, how would I feel walking out the door? I'd be looking over my shoulder and going, ooh, I hope I don't get caught. But if you're doing better work than you're paid for, say you're a $12 an hour call center worker, and you're giving them $15 worth an hour, and you know that you're doing the best job of anybody around there because you care about the customers, and you care about the job, and you were just doing a really good job, you walk out of there going, I feel awesome, man. I am doing an awesome job. You can go home and tell your husband, wife, girlfriend, or whatever, I am the best call center person they've got there. And eventually they're going to say, we need a supervisor, and this guy is an awesome example, or this girl is so awesome. Let's make them the supervisor and give them the raise. It only took 2 weeks at one call center I worked at, home hostage into you in Morris. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and the advertisements had started running. Everybody on the phone was bored to death. I mean, they would get 3 calls in a 4-hour period, and the calls took 10 minutes. They were so bored. And I was super busy because I had all this other stuff to do. And one of the girls, her name was Lisa, she saw me walking by with a stack of papers, photocopies, and a stapler, and she said, Peter, can I staple this for you? And I was like, it's not your job. She said, I don't mind. I was like, really? I was going to have to collate all these things. It was before photocopiers collated for you. I was going to have to spend an hour and 15 minutes taking sheets and stapling them together, thinking about all the other things I had to do. And Lisa said, I'm sitting here doing nothing, please. So I gave them to her, and I went off, got other stuff done. And an hour and 15 minutes later, she came up to me with everything stapled. And I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful. And like the next day, management came out of the front offices and said, we need to take somebody off the phones to work in medical records. They're immediately going to get a $1 or $2 an hour raise. And they don't have to know medical records at all. We're going to train them on all of that. But we need somebody who's reliable and willing to do a little extra. You know what I thought? Don't take Lisa. She makes my life easier. And I said, well, that's the one you want. And so they said, okay, send her over here. And I said, Lisa, log out. You get promoted. And everybody else was like, what? Everybody could hear because nobody was answering phone calls yet. He's like, what? Why is she getting promoted? I said, she was willing to do extra. Everybody then is like, oh, darn it, you know? Anyway, go the extra mile. It's fun, and they will eventually notice. Okay, last thing. This is the 6th thing. And this just kind of pulls it all together. How do you climb your castle? So you want to figure out what you want, and here are some tips to make it easier. It's not going to make it all easy, but to make it easier. Number 1, write it down. Write down what you want. Not a hard thing, but studies show people that write down what they want are like 10 times more likely to get it if they write it down one time. If you write it down each month or each week, the probability goes up. For me, it would go up just because I wouldn't forget. I think I have ADD because I'm so easily distracted by other things that are going on. So I really appreciate you guys being quiet, not having your phones out. I'm like, wow, you guys are a great audience. But I forget things. I get distracted by other things. And so I need to write it down. Second thing to remember, if you're going the right way, it's going to be uphill. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. If you see somebody on top of a mountain, someone said, they didn't just fall there. Sometimes you look at somebody else who's really successful and think, oh, that was easy for them. I want that too. And then you find out, well, how many years did they lift weights and practice 8 hours a day of basketball to get to where they're, that good of a basketball player? We don't realize how hard it was for them. But if they did it, then maybe we can do it too. Except that I'd have to do soccer instead of basketball because I'm not, don't have the height there. Remember Henry Ford, anything difficult can be made easier by dividing it into small steps. So figure out what you want. Go, okay, what are the small steps to get there? And then if you do one step each day, you'll never get discouraged. You'll always feel like, I'm further than I was yesterday. I'm making progress. I get discouraged easy, especially when I have this big dream and I don't do anything on it for 10 days. I'll never do it. Other people will tell me, you'll never do it. But if I take the steps every day, just break it into small steps. If you get to a step that's really intimidating, then figure out how to break it down into smaller steps. Like the college degree. You don't do a college degree all at once. Just call and ask for student financial aid. Is there a way I can get financial help on this? Okay. Have you heard that in your life you'll become like the 5 people you hang around the most? People tend to become like the people we're around the most. And so if you want to make it easier to get where you want to go, hang around people that are going where you want to go. Now, I expect your friends are probably the most important people in the world to you right now. You don't have to abandon your friends if they're not going where you want to go. Invite them to go with you. They may be going no place good. And if you tell them, hey, I've got this dream of doing this, you want to do it too? We can break it down into little steps. I already made some phone calls. I already checked some websites. You may save a life. Okay, I want to look at a handout that I'm going to give you guys. This is our website. So I'm going to Step Up Job Fairs. Step Up Job Fairs is owned by the Lawrence Journal World newspaper. I do job announcements all the time. That's all I do is business owners tell me, hey, could you put a job announcement in for me? Do I need to leave this here or can I turn this around? The computer.
Turn it around.
Yeah? Oh, I can't go very far with it. Okay. Well, just look at the screens. So if you go to stepupjobfairs.com, you can see all the job fairs in Topeka, Lawrence, and Kansas City, and you can click on them, and it'll give you more information about that. In fact, let me just really quickly show you. I can? Awesome, thank you. Okay, if you go to a job fair in the past and you scroll down to the Jobs Genie and you click on the Jobs Genie, there is a list of all the employers at the job fair, the job titles that they have open, how many of those openings there are. So you can see this company needs 10 mail opener extractors. I guess they're opening envelopes and taking stuff out. Okay? Some of the jobs there, they need a lot more than that, but at this job fair there was about 400 job openings. Interestingly enough, we usually get, oh boy, this is touchy. We usually get 100 or 200 people looking for jobs at the job fairs. So if you go to a job fair, there's probably going to be a lot more jobs there available than you can handle doing. And then you see the columns here, the number of openings. It also has, if they hire people under 18, if they're full or part-time jobs, what shift they are, if it's on the bus route, if they do a drug screen, if they do a background check, if there's health insurance, how much it pays. Some of them include all of that information and some do not. Okay. Right now we haven't put it up for this because we're afraid if we put it up, people won't go to the job fair. And so you have to go to the job fair to find that out. And then after the job fair, we put it up in case for people who missed the job fair. That's the deal there. So anyway, a lot of jobs. Employers are desperate for people. They are hurting. And when I ask them how's recruiting going, they all get sad and tell me we can't find enough people. So there are a lot of jobs out there. So, but I want to look at this things for job seekers. So here's a checklist of things to think about before meeting with the employer, tips for interviews, applications, and resumes. Secrets of getting hired handout, that kind of goes over what I've talked about today. Let's look at the nows form. Your future is going to consist of what you do now and a little bit later and a little bit later and a little bit later. Okay? Whatever you do, the steps that you take. The steps you take is going to create your future. And so the difficulty is controlling what we do with each now. Now just being a little period of time, say 5 minutes. What do you do now, and then the next now, and the next now? And so this is what I developed to help me remember to take the steps. Because these things, I have to do them every day. And if I forget to do them, then I'm not taking the steps. And so I have a bunch of color copies of this. You can take one with you today. Up at the top, it says, when performance is measured, performance improves. If you measure your own performance, instead of somebody else giving you a grade for it, just check off what you're doing. Somebody asked Seinfeld, you know the comedian Seinfeld? Do you guys even know who Seinfeld is? Is he still a comedian that people know nowadays? he's a good comedian, and so somebody said, how do I become a good comedian? And he said, get yourself a big calendar that has the whole year on it, and a red pen, and the only thing you put on that is every day you write comedy for 20 minutes and put a red X. And you do that like 4 or 5 days in a row, and you won't want to break the chain. And so whenever you think, oh, I don't feel like it, you'll go, I don't want to break the chain. And you just keep putting the accent. Did you know that Franklin Covey, they make planners with lots of little check boxes, and they, I don't know if they did the research or somebody else, but they found out that the human brain, when you check off a box, it creates a chemical in your brain. It releases a chemical that is highly pleasing and highly addictive. And so that's why they use all those check boxes, because it feels good to check off a check box. And I'll admit, this may sound really corny, but if I get up in the morning and I do some things, and then I break down a list of things to do, and I've already eaten breakfast and got dressed, sometimes I'll just write breakfast, get dressed, just so I can check them off, because it feels good. Sounds stupid, doesn't it? Okay, all right. So your future is composed of now, so figure out a way to control what you do. And down at the bottom there it says, little steps I take today will create my future. We're all here because of little steps that we've taken in the past. And the steps that we take today, this hour, and the next hour, and the next hour, and the next hour, what we say to people, what we think, what we do, all those steps are going to add up into your future. And I want you guys to have a good future. There's no sense in choosing to have a lousy one, right? Anyway, so you can go on that website and get a lot of different tips. You can print off the NOWS forms. Here's a stack of NOWS forms. Feel free to take one or two if you like as you go out. That's all I have for you unless you have questions. Any questions? Can we get out of here now? Are we tied up here for a few more minutes?
We're good until about 8 minutes after.
8 minutes after. So you're here for 8 minutes anyway. Anybody have questions? Anything you really want to know that I haven't covered already? If I wanted a job and I didn't see it in the paper, I might be discouraged from applying there, thinking, well, maybe they don't have any openings. But the truth of the matter is that, well, you guys know, because you probably see job postings on Facebook or Twitter or lots of other places, or on signs. Employers are so discouraged trying to find people, they're trying to find anywhere and everywhere to post job openings. And so, in fact, I post my job openings on Facebook also. I haven't figured out, well, no, I've got Twitter set up so it'll automatically come, but I'm not into Snapchat or Instagram for job openings. I use Instagram with my kids. So if you really want to work someplace, don't wait for a posting. They probably are hiring. Just walk into the place and tell them, I really like doing what you do, and I'm going to be available for work in 2 weeks. Are you hiring? And I bet a lot of them will give you an application and say, we're always hiring, fill this out, and then we'll talk. Maybe we're not hiring now, but we will in the next 2 weeks. When I was managing a fast food place, man, we lost people and hired people all the time. Okay, so figure out where you want to work, figure out what they do, maybe talk to somebody who works there and say, what's really important to these guys? Remember the fish? Think like the fish? Ask them, what's really important to your boss? Oh, well, people that'll show up on time, that'll be there every day, that are polite to customers, and then don't say anything in that interview that would persuade the hiring manager otherwise. Remember, don't throw mud, don't say bad things about other people, don't blame other people for things. Some hard questions are, why did you leave your last job? Oh, this is important, you guys. A lot of times I have people say, I got fired from my last job. What fired means to you and what it means to a hiring manager may be two very different things. To a hiring manager, it means you did something wrong. But before I was hiring people, I thought that fired just meant I'm no longer working there. Very, very different. Fired means you did something wrong. I got laid off by Sprint. They were trying to save money. They let go about 12,000 people. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't get fired. In fact, they gave me 16 weeks of pay when I walked out the door. And then I got a job. I made more money after getting laid off than I ever did before in my whole life. Okay, so don't use the word fired if you didn't do something wrong. I would explain to people now that Sprint cut 12,000 positions, and they gave me a bonus, and I didn't do anything wrong. It was a wide-scale layoff. Or I was at the Lawrence Community Shelter, the homeless shelter, and one guy said, oh, this was funny. It was funny to me. We've got 3 minutes. You can't leave anyway. So I'll tell you another story. I was teaching basically the same principles, and one guy said, but I've got a felony, so it's harder for me to get a job, right? Right? What's he trying to do? Can you see what he's trying to do? Right? It's hard for me, right? All his friends were around. He wanted an excuse. He wanted me to excuse him from looking for work by saying, oh yeah, just give up, Before I could give him any of my tips for how to get a job with a felony, because it is a lot harder and it's going to take a lot more time, and a lot of places won't hire you with a felony, before I could give him any tips, everybody was sitting down except one guy. I don't think he could sit still. I think he had ADHD, and he's walking around emptying trashes, and he's wiping off tables. He wasn't being disruptive, so I didn't complain about it. And I just let him do his thing. But when this guy was complaining about how hard it was to get a job with a felony, all of a sudden this quiet table wiping guy spun around and he said, don't give me that. I have 9 felonies. I was impressed and just a little bit scared. And every time I finished one construction job, because we finished the house, I could get another job just like that. I was impressed at how well he could pop his fingers. I get another job just like that. Don't tell me you can't get a job because you have a felony. Did I need to say anything else about felonies? I didn't need to. He just gave a better lecture than I could give. He's got 9. And I thought afterwards, why did he get a job instantly whenever he finished one construction job? Probably because, yeah, he's good. You couldn't quit moving. He probably just went around and looked for things to do and got this done and got that done and kept going. So whenever he went back to an old supervisor and said, hey, I just finished this other house, do you need somebody? They probably went, oh yeah, this guy will work. He'll get stuff done. He'll show up. We're not worried about his background. He's nailing nails and screwing screws and moving shingles. He's been a good worker before. We can count on this guy. He gets work done. Incidentally, I asked a whole bunch of HR people in Lawrence, since I was staffing for them, and I asked them, do you hire people with felonies? It's against the law for them to say they don't, but they don't have to. They don't have to tell anybody. That's why they're turning them down. So it is harder to get a job with a felony. But when I asked them, do you hire people with felonies? Almost every single one of them said, it depends. And I asked, well, what does it depend on? Well, if it was a long time ago, people change. And if it's at a bank as a cash teller, then forget it, But most jobs, they would still hire people with a felony. It depended on how badly they needed somebody, and it depended on when they talked to them, how the person behaved. Did they get angry? Did they blame somebody else for their problems? Or did it seem like they were going to show up and do the work? That's all employers want. They want to be convinced by your behavior and your answers that you're going to show up every day and just do the work. All right? You guys have a good life.